So thank you for joining again. I'm Simon Blythe, Head of Customer Delivery at Travel Ledger, and I'm joined by Michaela Durham, who's one of our system experts. We've got an agenda which we'll bring up in a minute, but just as an opening statement, Travel Ledger has now been running for, it's pretty much in our 5th month since October last year. During that time, we have taken on board a lot of feedback from you all, some good, some not so good, but it's all constructive. And we'd like to present back to you, based on your feedback, what we're doing about that. And that's the purpose of today, to make it simpler and easier to use. I think it's also fair to say that the supply side, or the operators, we have a lot of new operators on the SPS platform, the Travel Ledger platform, who actually haven't used SPS for probably a couple of years. The new team members in the finance teams and the operator side, I think they're getting used to the platform as well. And I know that's causing a little bit of ripple effect in terms of sometimes the invoices are being resubmitted and duplicated. So there's a learning on that side as well. So we're working with the supply side as well. We had a webinar with them yesterday, and we'll continue to work with them as well, just to make sure that they're optimizing the reconciliation back on their side and making sure that they're finding the right invoices to use. So we just reduce the churn and reduce as much as possible the things that you're having to go in and action on a weekly basis. So it's absolutely our driver. We're absolutely listening to you. And thank you for actually being patient with us where things haven't been quite right, but we will absolutely get this to a place where you guys are really happy with it. So I'm going to hand over to Michaela now, and Michaela's just going to run through the agenda, and part of that is really showing you some of the key things that we've done to make the space more usable.
Hi everyone. So on the agenda today, we're going to go through the new enhanced screens within the Travel Ledger platform. So we're going to have a look at how we've taken all the feedback we've had from you all and implemented that to have a better use of screen space. So hopefully you should all be able to see many more transactions on your screen. We're going to look at our new quick view setup, which allows you to easily see past, current week and all due transactions in really easy to find quick views, as opposed to having to work through more complicated filters. We're going to have a look at the change of column names and their meaning. So really defining the settlement dates, submission dates, payment dates really clearly for you in the platform. And we're also going to have a look at how you can hide any transactions that have already been actioned to, so you can just focus in on what you need to do as buyers on a day-to-day basis. After that, we're going to have a look at another new area, which is the new companies page. So that's something we've added to the platform to help you find your partners and assess your relationship with them within Travel Ledger, so you can see what you need to do to enable you to work with your partners. And then we're also going to have a look at some other improvements that aren't ready right now. So the changes I've mentioned just now, we're hoping to have to you towards the end of next week, ideally. We're still going through just the end of the testing process now, ironing out any creases, but once that's done, we hope to have that to you next week. And after that, I'm going to go through the other improvements that are also coming soon. So not this month, but afterwards, after perhaps in our next releases and onwards, we're looking to go through with you. So the buyer reconciliation file upload, so bulk operations from a buyer perspective, notifications, so notifications that we're implementing to improve the information that's communicated to you without you having to go into the platform. You'll have that delivered by email, say. And then also plans that we have in the future for a summary bank reconciliation view as well.
Can I just add something? Sorry, I should have said at the beginning. We are recording this session, so if there's anything here that you want to go back and review afterwards, we'll publish the video on our YouTube channel. And if there's any questions that you have, we've got a section at the end. Feel free to ask questions throughout. There's a chat option on the Zoom channel here, so pop your questions in there, and I will answer them throughout the session. And we'll have dedicated questions, answers, suggestions session at the end as well.
Thanks, Simon. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go into the platform and have a look at the changes. Okay. So as you can see, we've got a bit of a change to the initial view when you log in. You'll notice that where you're used to having a lot more space at the top here used up by headers, you'll now see that that's been reduced. So there's so much more space dedicated to the grid, because at the end of the day, the grid and your transactions are what's important and what's important to you. So the more we can show to you within this space, then the better. So what we've done is we've removed any headers. We've compressed the size of the menu here on the side. So you'll now see that this is fixed out instead of you having to open and close it. There's no headers at the top. Everything's been included here within the menu bar. And actually the area of the platform you are currently in is highlighted within the menu bar. So you'll see here, this is highlighted as we're in transactions. So where we had a big transactions header here taking up space, what we've decided to do is we've just highlighted that you're in the transactions area within the menu. So there's that much more room to display transactions to you. Another change as well is resizing of the screen depending on your computer. Feedback from you all very validly is that, say, depending on the kind of computer you're using, so if you've got dual screens and you're in an office and you've got a big screen, then great, it probably all has looked good to you. For those of you using laptops, working from home, you'll often have found that you can actually only view, say, 5 or 6 different transactions in the list, and you're having to scroll left to right to see all the columns that you need to review. So we've put some work in place to have the platform resized depending on your computer. So you should see much more in your grid initially without having to zoom and mess around with your settings. So I would say the biggest change we've made based on your feedback is the implementation of quick views. These are done for buyers and sellers, so there's dedicated views for each of those user type. So where you previously had sent and received to target different sets of transactions, you've actually now got this quick view drop-down list where you can see there are 6 different options, 3 for buyers and 3 for sellers. So as buyers, you've got 3 here, which are currently listed as buyer current, which will be relabeled to buyer this week, buyer future, which will be buyer all due, and then buyer past, that's staying as is. So they're just a couple of tweaks that we're still making in the development of this. So what these do is they allow you to see different sets of transactions based on which one you select. So buyer current or buyer this week displays you everything that has a review end, so a buyer review end within this calendar week. So in the world of ABTA, how we are now, if you log in on a Monday, you'll see everything with a review end of the Wednesday. Buyer future allows you to see something slightly different. So buyer future will be called buyer all due. That will show you this week. So you'll log in and on a Monday, you will see this week. But if, for example, one of your partners, a seller, has loaded some transactions early, so they've loaded some things in advance, they've, say, gone in on a Tuesday and uploaded some transactions, which will only drop into a buyer review end of the following week, you will be able to see those as well. So it shows you everything upcoming. Something I'll touch on later when I talk about upcoming developments as well will be credit terms and how we're going to be able to support that as well through your seller partners. So, you know, if you have extended credit terms with someone, we're going to be able to facilitate that in Travel Ledger. So your sellers will be able to load things for you with a later due date. So that'll be really useful once that comes into play. And lastly, we've got buyer past, and I think this is something we've had probably the most feedback on in terms of finding transactions would be, how do I see my previous transactions? So Buy a Past actually allows you to target everything that is from a review end that's already happened. So a collection submission has taken place. It will look at everything from the last collection submission and a month back from that. So it will default to that for you. So you can quickly and easily access previous collections to review transactions there. So at the moment, we're on Thursday this week, aren't we? So if I look at Buy a Future, I will be able to see anything that's been loaded early for next week at the moment. So if I click into Buy a Future here, you can see we've got transactions with a review end of the 23rd of Feb, which is next Wednesday now. So to point out in the quick views, the actual amount of columns that are displayed to you is vastly different. So you'll all be used to seeing lots of columns and having to scroll right to get to them all. And, you know, not always finding those columns that are displayed necessarily relevant. So what we've done is we've tailored the columns that are displayed to you by quick view. So we've tried to make sure you only see the columns that you really need to see, and what we will consider as like the key columns for each quick view there. That doesn't mean that other columns aren't available to you. They are still. So if there are things in a quick view and you think this thing's missing, so say you wanted to also view the bank payment date, so the payment date, it would hit your partner, you can go in and you can add those back in still. So that functionality remains the same. We still have the columns button here. So you can actually select that and add in any columns that you would like to add to your view. So say you wanted to add payment. I am actually going to add the payment date column in as well right now, just so I can talk you through some other changes as well. As well as sort of reducing the number of columns that we display to you, we've also tried to redefine the names of the columns and add in a couple of new ones. So before, where you've had Buy a Review End, and then you've also had the collection date, they have been changed in a way. So now you've got the Buy a Review End, which is the date of collection submission as well. So in the world of ABTA, Wednesday at 4 o'clock. We then also now have the collection date, so the date the funds are actually collected from your bank. And then we also have the payment date, so the date that the payment hits the bank. So if you're having a refund or you're paying a supplier, that's the bank date for that. We have also added these little information icons for you as well. So if anywhere where you may find a column meaning is unclear, or you're not sure what its exact function is, you're able to then hover over this and get a further description of the contents of that column. So in this case, review end is equal to the end of the buyer review / the date of the collection submission. Okay. So I'm sat in Buy a Future at the moment, but I might decide actually it's Thursday, I just want to review and double check everything I've submitted this week. I could go to Buy a Past and I can see everything here from our collection submission yesterday, so the review end of yesterday, and then I can go right through and I can see previous before that as well. So that'll display the last collection date minus 30 days as well, and that's still tailorable. So you can see here we've got the whole 30 days displayed. If you wanted to shorten that window or make it bigger, you can do through the calendar, or if you want to review a specific review end date only, so a specific submission date, you can click on it here, so you can choose from the list. So the last one was the 16th yesterday. I could click on that and just review transactions from then only. Okay. Oh, and we also have, if I just switch to the future view again for you, The last thing I wanted to point out in terms of the changes here is to focus on where filters are applied. We have highlighted columns where the filters are applied. So because we've got the quick views now, and we are applying filters on your behalf to target data that is relevant to those views, we have highlighted where the filters are in place. So I know you can see it here in the line, but it's just to make it easier to notice and spot. So like we've got review end here, if you wanted to change that or you needed to change the data, then you quickly have your filters pointed out to you, so you're able to change that quickly. Additionally, I did mention that we can also hide actioned bookings now. So that's a new functionality. Hopefully will be helpful if you log into future or current and you just want to see bookings you haven't got to yet. So I might have gone in and I've accepted several bookings. So let me just accept a few now. So I'll accept these first 5 bookings. If I no longer want to look at these because they're done, I only want to be looking at things that still need work doing on them, then you can click here on hide actions. And you'll see that those 5 bookings have disappeared from my display. So I'm now only seeing bookings that I still need to apply a transaction status of accepted, amended or rejected to. That doesn't remove them or change them at all. It just hides them from view. So if I want to see them again, because actually maybe I want to go in and reject some of them instead, then I can just untick that and view them again. So you can toggle between hiding and unhiding your actioned bookings as well. Simon, have you got anything you want to add on that bit before I just move on to the company's page?
I just wanted to reiterate that the default view will be the buyer current week. Yes. Because the feedback that we've had from a lot of people is I just want to see what I need to action this week. So we're showing you future because it's just got more data in it on our test platform at the moment, but buyer current week is the default, and that's where that should be your go-to screen to see what you need to action this week. And just to reiterate, sometimes suppliers they've filed slightly out of sync and it's shown on your screen even though it wasn't due this week, and then you've gone and actioned them and you've seen them, oh, but they're still there the next week. Why they're still there? Well, it's because they were actually due the following week. So if you just stick on the buyer current week, you won't see those until they're actually due for you to action.
Yeah, and you would only see those in your buyer future. So, you would have the option to go into buyer future and do them in advance if you felt like that was something you wanted to do. But, that's entirely up to you. So your current will just show you what needs to be reviewed for this week's collection. Okay. So that's the quick views and an overview of the new layout. As Simon mentioned, any questions on that, then do just pop them in the chat, or you can ask verbally during the Q&A session. Any questions or thoughts are, much appreciated. I'm next going to show you a new addition to the partners area of the platform. So if I click into partners here, you'll see there's a new page called company list, which I'm going to show you now. So the companies list here just allows you to look up different companies in the platform. So you may have partners who you want to check your setup with, or you might want to look for somebody that you are considering working with to see whether they're in Travel Ledger and what their setup is. So I'm going to show you an example now. I will point out that this screen does load up as blank, just because we do have so many companies within the platform now, that it would just be an awful lot of information to display all at once. So what we've done is we've just made it searchable. So if I put in Michaela, you'll see some of my test companies that I have now that have Michaela within the naming convention of them. So that's brought back all those different companies. You can see the ABTA ID. You can also see TIDS and IATA if they have them listed in the platform. We have the country, so which country they're based in. not necessarily useful at the moment when we're all everyone in the platforms in the UK, but as we grow and expand the network, then there will be other countries in there as well. Head office, so this one shows whether they're a head office or whether they're a branch, and it'll show the head office they're associated to. So if I just show you a different one quickly just to demonstrate that bit, so I just put buyer in, I think I've got a company here, yeah. So you can see here all these ones, they're head offices because they've got the little dash next to them, so it is the head office. Whereas underneath you've got a few branches listed and it shows you the head office they're associated with. So if you need to look up, you want to search for somebody by an ABTA number, you might put in the ABTA number and it will show you the company name, so which branch it is. But if you've got a wider relationship with, say, their head office, it will also show you who the head office is here. As well, next, we've got whether they are acting as a seller or a buyer on the platform. So are they acting as a seller, either yes or no, and are they acting as a buyer, either yes or no? It can be yes for both if they are acting as both a seller and a buyer, but a lot of companies will either just be either a seller or a buyer. And then we have the seller commercial link and the buyer commercial link. So you have visibility there to whether you have a commercial link in place with them or not, and whether that's on a seller or a buyer basis. So you'll see an example here where we've got commercial links as buyers here. Last column is subscription. So that just shows you whether they're active or whether they've got cancelled subscriptions with Travel Ledger as well. So you can check whether a company is, currently active with us, or, they may have been on the platform in the past and not currently using that. I think another thing to point out with this, I know, Simon, you mentioned it on the call yesterday, was around contacts. So we get quite a few requests at the moment for contacts at suppliers, so an email address or a phone number, because you may be struggling to get in touch with a supplier. So I think a future development that we would like to see in here was giving you all the option as buyers and sellers to add in a contact detail, so an email address or phone number that you can then reference in the platform. So I could look up company Michaela D Travel and see the email address to contact them outside of the platform. So that's something we'd also like to and look to implement in the coming months.
Thanks, Michaela. Just a quick other point from me. So we've added that to our roadmap. So that will be coming in an upcoming release. So you can have your contact details for your relevant suppliers. Could you just also demonstrate how to, when the screen's blank, no data, if I'm an agent and I want to see, well, actually, who are all the suppliers on the platform? How can I just list all the suppliers?
Yeah. So you'll see here we've got columns, and it's I showed you before, it shows whether someone's acting as a seller or a buyer. So as an agency, you might want to look up all the different suppliers that are able to submit to you through Travel Ledger. You could actually go to the seller list here and select yes. So look for any companies that are acting as a seller, and that will generate a full list of anybody acting as a seller. So you'll be able to see the details for all those companies in there. Okay. All right, so that covers the new functionality that, as I said, we hope to have out to you later on next week. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint and I'm going to go through some things that are coming soon. Okay. So first on the list, I mentioned it briefly before, is credit terms. We discussed this on the seller webinar yesterday with all your suppliers. So it's something the sellers are aware of that we have coming soon. We've given them a couple of ways in which they can add credit terms to their submission of bookings to you as their buyers. So for example, if you have 30 days credit terms with one of your suppliers, they're going to be able to implement that in Travel Ledger. So when they submit a file to you, it will be able to become with 30 days for you to review that. So it will drop into a later review end date. They can do that in a couple of different ways, either through an extended file when they upload, or there's a workaround in the platform. So if you do have any partners who you have unique credit terms with, then you might hear from them about that, or if you want to discuss that with them, and that is something that we have upcoming as available in the platform. Buyer reconciliation file upload, so bulk operations. We are looking to create and allow you to use a buyer upload form for you to accept, amend and reject bookings through. So that's something that we're looking to develop, and we'll get information over to you, as we do that. But that's something that we are focusing is on our roadmap for delivery.
So yeah, if you've got thousands of transactions or hundreds of transactions, you could just do the one in a spreadsheet and just submit it into the platform. It'll do all auto acceptance rejection for you. So it's for the large agencies, so not necessarily for everybody's use, but yeah, that's up and coming.
Next is notifications. So some feedback that we have had is about credit and debit positions on the platform. So understanding when you enter the settlement, so once the buyer review period ends and the settlement goes forward for submission, where do you stand? So what am I paying out, and what do I have coming to me as refunds on a settlement by settlement basis? So there's a new notification and development which is going to show you your credit and debit position on a partner by partner basis. So for each supplier, it will show you how much you are either paying them or they are paying you, and then your overall position as well. So how much you are paying in total and how much you are also going to be credited in total as well as part of a settlement. That's coming soon to you as well. So that's something that is being worked on by one of the team, and is, I think, much sort of
finished actually, Kayla. So
yeah.
It'll probably go out with all the other functionality. So I'm hoping in a week or a couple of weeks time maximum, this functionality will be there. So as you say, at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday, you'll get an email saying, hey, this is what you've accepted or rejected. These are your total values, and this is what's going to come out of your bank account.
Yeah. And I think on this point as well, I just wanted to, I think this will be really useful in line with this, to just remind everybody about the refunds process. So how, it is slightly different to what you had before in SPS. I hope it's sort of everyone's getting used to that now, but that the refunds come to you on the same day that your payment goes to the suppliers. So it's a slightly different process. The refunds are dispersed to you. So the refunds are collected from your suppliers at the same time the collection's made from you. So that Wednesday and then the bank on Friday. That those funds are then only dispersed by ABTA the following Wednesday and in your bank on the Friday. So slightly different, and there is documentation on that on the help pages. But just to remind everybody about that's the flow, and I think where some of the confusion comes from with the credit and debit positions, but the notification should help with that as well. Again, going back to the credit and debit positions, as you can see, there's
Kayla, sorry, just on the other notifications that are going to start happening. So the second one that there is,
yeah, I've missed that one. Sorry, I can.
So
yeah. So,
okay.
We were also doing a review window notice, so I got carried away with my credits and debits bit and missed that one. So review window notices, you're going to start to receive notifications at the start of a buyer review window, so your Monday at 10 a.m. And then warnings for the end of the review period as well. So you receive those 48 and 24 hours before the review window closes, which for ABTA is Wednesday at 4. Those are going to be tailored. So if you haven't got anything to review this week, you won't receive any review window notices. But if you've got transactions to review, then they are targeted and you will receive notification that your review window is about to close in 48 or 24 hours. So we're hoping those are useful to you. Okay, so summary bank reconciliation view. As you can see, there's quite a bit of focus through notifications and this on giving you a clearer position on your credits and debits within the platform. So clearly showing you what's coming out of your bank, what's coming into your bank, broken down, having both an overall position and broken down on a supplier by supplier basis. So we are focused on delivering something within the platform to support that. That's still very much in development, won't be with you in the next couple of weeks. It might be a month or two away, but it is something we are focused on providing for you to make that a bit easier. And that was it from me in terms of what's new and what's coming soon. But we've got some time for any questions on what we've shown you today and also what we've described as on the roadmap, and also any requests. So if there's anything that you've seen or heard about, if you've got any further thoughts on that, they're much appreciated too.
I've had no questions come in so far, so I'm hoping that's welcome, that you welcome new screens, that they are far simpler and easier to interact with. Once we've got the functionality out there, I'm sure as you use it, you may have other suggestions. We will continue to send out reviews, questionnaires. We will continue to do these webinars. And of course, we have our support channel as well to raise any questions there, which we will answer and take any feedback on board. So if there's any questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, we won't keep you any longer. I know you're all very busy. We can wish you a very pleasant rest of the day and this week. And I've had some questions coming in now, so let's address those. So we've got one question here. We haven't had any payments to make on the system yet, only refunds, but have made bookings to pay out. I would follow that up with your suppliers, just understand why they haven't filed on the platform to you yet, because we will have set you up to receive those automatically from all the operators. So please follow up directly with them on that. I have a question coming in, which is what progress was made with the extended seller file. Does that file contain commissions, VAT, gross net values? Good question. Thanks, Anthony. We are absolutely working on that now. We've just finalized the specifications, so they will have all those things, whether it's VAT, commissionable, whether it's the deposit amount or the balance due, gross net values. Is gross net values in the file format? So we'll publish those file formats to everybody. The development is starting, so we're probably a couple of months away from actually making that available to you. But we will submit the specification first.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're actually going to publish the file in the next week.
Yes.
It will take a little bit of time for the suppliers to actually start to feed that information.
Yes.
So I would expect, as somebody's saying, that it will take about probably a month, 6 to 8 weeks until we start to see that data start to appear. But again, this, once we've done this, it doesn't just depend on us, but it depends on the supplier making the changes on their end in order to be able to submit the data. The same as, we just transmit data back and forth. We don't actually originate the data. So for that, you need to talk to your suppliers and let them know that you want more data to be submitted.
Thanks. That was Roberto answering that question. Thank you, Roberto. So another question from Anthony regarding the buyer bulk reconciliation or the initial release to, would that be a CSV Excel via web page, or would you want to receive open files via ABTA?
Initially, we're looking at to do it via a CSV web page, but we will also introduce FTP. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to support both.
Yeah.
We've been told that quite a few companies would like to be able to download the file, do it in Excel, and it's a bit more of a manual process. So we'll probably give priority to that. But if we can't make it at the same time, the FTP facility will be probably the following release. Yes, soon after. We already have the mechanism there for the supplier. The supplier already use FTP anyway, so it's just a matter of implementing both.
Question from Barbara. So in regards to future payments, so if you did action those entries earlier, suppliers can't change the figures. Once it's loaded, it's locked. They could resubmit it. Obviously, that would be another transaction for you to review and accept or reject. So no amendments can be made to those values. Only you can amend those values. So as you know, you can amend values today. That's current functionality, but that's on the buyer side.
Yeah, but that is part of the logic as well. If a seller submits a file with transactions that are due in the future, and you decide to reconcile them earlier on, for example, reject them or amend or something, and the supplier keeps an eye on what you're doing, then obviously they will be able to know that you disagree on the figures before they become due.
Yeah.
So then they can coordinate with you to make sure that either they correct the record on their end or they contact you and you resolve it. So the advantage on both sides is that apart from making sure that you get all the credits that you have negotiated from a commercial perspective, the other benefit as well is that both parties have early visibility in what the numbers are, and they can be resolved before they're due for payment, rather than kind of knowing that you disagree at the last minute.
Correct.
So to say.
Actually, on that point, we didn't mention on the future functionality up and coming. As part of these additional information that will be available in files, we're also going to allow you to have a free text notes field on the platform. So right now it's quite a limited number of reason codes that you can put in for a reason why you're not accepting or why you're amending something. We will also be adding free text notes field, so you can add additional information for your supplier to read. Okay, so I've had no further questions coming in. Thank you all again for your time. Wish you a very pleasant rest of your day and week. And any questions you do have, please fire them into us via the support channel, and we'll also publish this recording to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye.